Hey, does anybody remember the Spider-Man vs. Mikasa episode of DBX? Yeah, let's hope this one turns out better. Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to another one of my Death Battle prediction videos. Next time on Death Battle, we've got a fight that everybody knew was coming. We've got Belladonna from RWBY, it's the third RWBY character that they've ever used on the show, versus the first Attack on Titan character they've ever used on the show, Mikasa Ackerman, so that's pretty cool. Some people are kind of split on this fight. Some people think it's a good fight idea, and some people aren't really that excited for it. Personally, I'm pretty excited for it. I think these characters are cool, and I think that the fight dynamic is pretty cool as well. This is probably the most excited I've been for a RWBY fight on Death Battle in general, actually, so that's saying something. I will say, though, that I'm not fully caught up on RWBY, so I don't know everything there is to know about Blake or the RWBY characters, and I'm not fully knowledgeable on Attack on Titan either, so I don't know everything that there is to know about either of these characters, is basically what I'm saying. But still, I think this fight is going to be fun, and as always, I will give my best educated guess for my prediction, and yeah, hopefully I get it right. That being said, though, I am going to try to make this video relatively straightforward, just because the reasoning that I can gather for this fight is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to say it right now. I think that Blake is going to end up winning this fight. I wouldn't say that this fight is a massive stomp, or at least not as massive as the first three fights that happened in Season 8 of Death Battle, but I do think that Blake has enough advantages that it really assures her victory more often than not. Like, it's not necessarily that this fight is massively one-sided, but it's that the advantages are there and they're clear, you know what I mean? So that's essentially my prediction. I think that Blake is going to win. If you want to keep watching, hear the rest of my prediction, then feel free, but if that's all you wanted to hear, then thanks for watching. The scaling in RWBY for the most part is pretty straightforward, but there are some things that we have to watch out for, just because even though all of the characters in Team RWBY should be in the same ballpark when it comes to stuff like strength, speed, and durability, general stats, there are some abilities and some feats that we probably shouldn't scale all of the characters all the way up to. Like, for example, Yang has her semblance, which says that, the more hits that she takes, the more her power increases. That's her own special ability that comes from her aura. And it's probably not fair to scale Blake all the way up to those higher end Yang semblance strength feats, just because Blake doesn't have that semblance. She doesn't have a way to get that strong naturally, unlike Yang. Same goes for RWBY's semblance, RWBY herself and her speed semblance. Unless there's, like, in one of the episodes I missed, it was abundantly clear that Blake was able to match Yang at her strongest or RWBY at her fastest. I don't believe there is something like that, but if something like that does exist, then please feel free to correct me in the comments below. That's 100% possible. I could be wrong. When it comes to stuff like aura, though, like durability and healing, that's pretty similar across the board, even at its maximum potential, I believe, because while semblances are different, aura is pretty much supposed to be the same for everybody, to my understanding. But when it comes to stuff like strength and speed, or the higher end capabilities for Blake, it's better to look at the comparable RWBY scaling and feats and everything like that, and just Blake's own abilities and her own feats. I feel like that's more reliable when trying to figure out how powerful Blake is. Mikasa, on the other hand, is probably best measured by her performance against Titans, and while this may sound very obvious to say, she cannot scale to Titans in terms of strength and durability directly. And again, that sounds obvious, but the reason why I bring this up is because normally when you look at versus debating, if one character is able to defeat another character, you can logically assume that they can scale above that character, at least most of the time. There are some weird circumstances, but most of the time you can assume that, or assume something along the lines of that. But when it comes to, characters like Eren and Mikasa fighting Titans, you can't really do that in the same way, because, they're using a keep away strategy, they're staying out of range, and they're hitting and wearing the Titans down over time. They're not usually able to do anything in one hit, at least, not without exploiting some kind of weakness. But most of the time, you're not going to be able to see that, when they're fighting Titans. So they're obviously not able to scale to a Titan's strength and durability directly. Now, that's not to say that Mikasa can't do some impressive things. Like with her Thunder Spears, she's been able to damage particularly tough Titans over time, like the Armored Titan, and she's been able to take direct attacks from Titans before as well. But, surviving things like that, that's kind of far and few in between, you know what I mean? Like, that's not something that she can easily do, something that she can easily shake off, So in general, again, it's mostly about not getting hit. It's mostly about staying out of range and wearing the Titan down over time. And when you look at the things that Mikasa can do in terms of one hit, like doing things in one hit, it's far below the supposed quote-unquote Titan level. But regardless of all of that, both Blake and Mikasa have their own feats and their own impressive displays of strength and durability, but it seems that Blake's capability capabilities in those regards are at least a little bit better. You know, both of them are able to slice through various tough opponents and materials. Like on Blake's side, you have robots and monsters and missiles, etc., etc. Whereas again, I mentioned before for Mikasa, she can slice through various titans. She also has her, you know, awakened power thanks to being an Ackerman, you know, that kind of weird thing. But aside from just scaling to her general RWBY teammates and her Beacon Academy classmates, you know, it can be argued that characters like Blake, you know, other RWBY characters, when they're at their best, they can at least approach the level of characters like Sun or Roman Torchwick, if I'm understanding correctly. You know, at least at their best, they can at least approach that kind of level, which seems a little out of Mikasa's range based on what we've seen her do. And when it comes to Gravity Dust, I'm not sure whether or not Gravity Dust would be, you know, standard for Blake, because, you know, I know she's used it before, but it's not like as prominent as the other dusts that she's used, which I'll get into later, by the way. So I'm not sure whether or not it would be considered standard. If it is standard for her, though, you know, it can manipulate gravity and some, you know, physical forces to some degree. So, you know, that could definitely help as well against Mikasa. But either way, you know, just scaling throughout the RWBYverse, I feel should put her on a higher level than Mikasa in general. It should give her a leg up. You know, of course, though, Mikasa would get a leg up over Blake if she was able to deactivate her aura, because of course that would take away her healing and her semblance, and it would severely lessen her durability. But thanks to Blake's impressive speed and versatility, I personally don't think that's very likely for Mikasa to be able to do. When it comes to speed, we've seen Blake deflect gunfire and dodge supersonic missiles without too much effort, not to mention when she uses her lightning dust, she becomes even quicker, and she's even dodged the Sea Dragon's lightning breath. Now, I'm not sure whether or not this lightning breath technically moves at the speed of lightning. I feel like Death Battle will say that it does move at the speed of lightning, but I don't want to say that for sure. Regardless, though, even if it doesn't move at the speed of lightning, you know, we haven't seen Mikasa do much more in terms of speed than dodging bullets, for example. You know, we haven't seen her capabilities go too far beyond that. And she's even been caught off guard by certain titans before, and, you know, they're not known for being particularly fast. Now, of course, I know that, you know, Death Battle is going to use Mikasa's best speed feats when comparing her to Blake, because, of course, they should be doing that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there's just a lot more in terms of quality and quantity that they can use for Blake than they can use for Mikasa. You know, there's more of a case you can make for Blake getting to that higher end supersonic range, or possibly even far into the hypersonic range. So Blake definitely has a leg up over Mikasa in terms of speed, and likely a pretty big one. It also goes without saying that Blake possesses far more versatility than Mikasa in the form of her multi-purpose Gamble Shroud, her shadow clones, which are a result of her semblance, of course, and also her various dusts. Like I mentioned before, she has her lightning dust and potentially gravity dust. Again, I'm not sure about that, but she also has earth dust, fire dust, ice dust. It just gives her way more offensive options that are difficult for Mikasa to counter. You know, Mikasa isn't really equipped to be able to counter everything that Blake can throw out. Like, of course, Mikasa has her thunder spears and she has her vertical maneuvering equipment, which actually gives her a good mix of power and maneuverability. But in general, it just pales in comparison to everything that Blake can pull out, especially considering Blake's physical superiority. It just feels like Blake has too much, and it will just be too overwhelming for Mikasa to be able to counter all at once. So if you want my general thoughts on this fight in short, I believe that Blake has the power and the versatility needed to make sure that she deals out heavier hits and that she doesn't lose her aura, and I believe that she has the one-on-one combat experience and the speed to work around Mikasa's keep away strategy and just wear her down over time. So in general, yes, I do believe that Blake is going to end up winning this death battle. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like a major stomp for Blake, but I believe that the advantages are there for Blake enough to solidly secure her the victory more times than not, as I mentioned earlier. You know, if Mikasa does lose, it will be kind of sad, because it means the second new franchise that is introduced to Death Battle this season will also receive, you know, a loss immediately, like how Ryuko was the first kill a kill rep and she lost. But, you know, either way, you know, if Blake does win, then it does mean that that's another RWBY win, so, you know, I can't really complain too much there. But with all that being said, that is the end of my prediction video, guys. But with all that being said, that is the end of my prediction video. What do you guys think? Do you think Blake is going to win, or do you think Mikasa is going to win? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like, comment your comments down below, subscribe if you could too, that would be amazing. But no matter what you guys do, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm excited for this fight. I hope you guys are excited for this fight as well. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace out.